Hey, so, I want you to do something for me. Close your eyes for a second. Picture Europe. Not a map, but the idea of it. Its cathedrals, its libraries, its languages, its art. Got it. Now, I want you to imagine all of that, every last bit of it, being erased. The libraries burned, the cathedrals turned into stables, the languages silenced, the very memory of Rome and Greece forgotten. That was the very real, terrifying possibility in the 7th and 8th centuries. And the only thing that stood in the way? A single city. A firewall. This is the story of how that city saved the West. Hey, welcome back. I'm Ibnul J. Farabi, and this is Empire Builders, the rise and fall of civilizations from light, not studios. And this is Episode 7, the Byzantine Firewall, how Constantinople saved the West. We often think of the fall of Rome as a single, dramatic event in 476 AD. But that's just the administrative collapse in the West. The Roman Empire didn't die. It packed up its capital and moved east to a city built for this exact moment, Constantinople. For centuries, as Western Europe fragmented into warring kingdoms, Constantinople stood as a beacon. It was the richest, most sophisticated, most formidable city on earth. But its greatest service wasn't its gold or its silk. It was its willingness to stand alone and take a beating so that a battered, vulnerable Europe could learn to stand again. Let's set the scene. By the early 7th century, the Eastern Roman Empire, what we call Byzantium, was surrounded. The Persian Empire had risen to a terrifying peak. In 626, the Persians and their allies, a confederation of Slavic and Avar tribes, launched a coordinated assault. The Persian army camped on the Asian shore of the Bosphorus. The Slavs and Avars laid siege from the European side. Constantinople was completely cut off. Emperor Heraclius was actually away on campaign, deep in Persia. The city was defended by a small garrison and its citizens. For weeks, the siege engines pounded the massive Theodosian walls. The Avars launched assault after assault. And here's the thing. If those walls had broken, history ends. The Persians would have swept in, taken the city, and had an open highway into a defenseless Europe. But the walls held. The citizen soldiers fought with a desperate fury. They used a terrifying new weapon called Greek fire, a liquid flame that burned even on water to destroy the Slavic fleet. The siege failed. This victory wasn't just a military success, it was a psychological turning point. It proved Constantinople was impregnable, and it allowed Heraclius, with his daring campaign, to finally crush the Persian Empire for good. He returned the true cross to Jerusalem. For a moment, it seemed the Roman world was restored. But that moment was terrifyingly brief, because a new force was emerging from the deserts of Arabia that would make the Persian Empire look like a minor irritant. The rise of Islam was a geopolitical earthquake. The Arab armies, united and inspired, exploded out of the peninsula. They swallowed the Persian Empire whole. They took Syria, Palestine, Egypt, the richest provinces of Byzantium. Then they turned their sights on the capital itself. From 674 to 678, and again in 717 to 718, colossal Muslim fleets and armies laid siege to Constantinople. Think about the scale of this. The entire weight of the new Islamic Caliphate, the most dynamic power on the planet, was focused on breaking this one city. The 717 siege was led by a massive army and a fleet of over 1,800 ships. Europe offered no help. The West was a landscape of fractured, struggling kingdoms. Once again, it came down to the walls, the navy, and Greek fire. The Byzantine Emperor, Leo III, orchestrated a masterful defense. The massive chain across the Golden Horn blocked the fleet. The walls absorbed every assault. And when the Arab ships crowded in, the Byzantine dromons unleashed streams of Greek fire. The sea itself seemed to burn. The siege collapsed. The surviving Arab fleet was destroyed in a storm on its way home. This wasn't just a defeat for the Caliphate. It broke their momentum in the Mediterranean for centuries. Constantinople didn't just save itself. It saved Anatolia, and it saved the Balkans from immediate conquest. It bought time. And this is the critical point we often miss. Constantinople wasn't just fighting for its own survival. It was fighting a holding action for a civilization in its infancy. While the Byzantine armies were bled white holding the frontier in Anatolia, what was happening in the West. The so-called Dark Ages were actually a period of painful, quiet germination. Monasteries like Babaio and Monte Cassino were copying manuscripts, many of which had been preserved by Byzantine scribes. Charlemagne was being crowned Holy Roman Emperor, trying to resurrect the idea of Rome with Byzantine models in mind. The very concept of Christendom was crystallizing. None of this would have been possible if the Islamic Caliphate had taken Constantinople and poured into Europe from the east and the south simultaneously. The pressure would have been unbearable. Think of Constantinople as a firewall. A firewall absorbs the malicious attacks, the constant brute force assaults, so that the network behind it can develop, can run its programs, can grow. For over 500 years, from the 7th to the 12th century, Constantinople was that firewall. It endured over a dozen major sieges. It lost and regained territory. It fought a war of attrition on a scale we can barely imagine. Every ounce of its wealth, every bit of its ingenuity, was poured into this single task: hold the line. And in doing so, they preserved something even more vital than territory. They preserved knowledge. While Western libraries dwindled, the libraries of Constantinople kept the complete works of ancient Greek and Roman philosophers, scientists, and historians safe. The writings of Plato and Aristotle, the medical texts of Galen, the geometry of Euclid, they were curated, studied, and copied by Byzantine scholars. This wasn't a frozen archive, it was a living tradition. Later, when Western Europe was finally ready, these texts would travel west, first through Islamic scholars who also engaged with them, and then directly, helping to ignite the Renaissance. The firewall protected the data until the system was ready to reboot. It's a perspective that's always struck me, personally. As an engineer, I see systems. And the Byzantine Empire was one of the most resilient systems in history. It had redundant defenses, those incredible layered walls. It had a unique, unstoppable tool, Greek fire, its technological edge. And it had an incredible adaptive logic, its diplomacy, its ability to turn enemies against each other, its sheer bureaucratic endurance. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't about expanding gloriously. It was about maintenance, about endurance. And sometimes, that's the most heroic work of all, just holding the line so others can build. So, the next time you see a depiction of medieval Europe, its castles, its nascent universities, its Gothic spires reaching skyward, remember what made that possible. Remember the city on the Bosphorus that, for century after bloody century, stood in the breach. It paid the price so that Western Christendom could find its footing. Constantinople wasn't just a relic of Rome. It was its guardian. And in the end, the greatest empire builder isn't always the one who conquers the most territory, but the one who safeguards the space for the future to be born. Thanks for listening. If this story of resilience and forgotten guardians resonated with you, please share this episode with someone. It means the world. For the full archive of empire builders, visit Light Not Studios at lightnotstudios.com. I'm Ibnul J. Farabi. Until next time, take care.